Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Literature course. Sorry that I've had to postpone this first tutorial. These are reasons completely beyond my control, but we will recuperate the class, so don't worry. What I'd like to do today is just give you a little bit of a brief introduction to the course and what I expect from you in the course. Please excuse the cat who's kind of crying for food in the background, but we'll try and speak over him. During the course, the first half of the course, the first semester of the course, will be going from early American literature from John Smith, the early settlers, up through William Bradford, dealing with things like captivity narratives, the American Enlightenment, and the slave experience, which is one of the most fascinating and horrific episodes in the history of humanity. And all of this is dealt with in the course of American literature. To help us go through this, I've prepared this little Prezi, which we will add to as the course continues. We start off with plenty of information here about the early settlers, about the arrival of Smith and the early Virginia settlements, the hardships, the starvation, the difficulties, which give us a little bit of background to Smith's narrative. We go up through the Pilgrim settlers. There's plenty of background information here about Bradstreet, about Mary Rowlandson, and this is basically extra information. Some of you are a little bit shaky on your approaches and a little bit lacking in confidence, I find, when it comes to talking about prose, when it comes to talking about poetry. So I've given you here some links to a couple of Open University. Open University is like the British UNED, and they've got some very, very good open resources. One that I like a lot, which I think can be very, very helpful to us, is their mini MOOC. I think it's about sort of 12 hours work, but really it's you go through it, and in 4 or 5 hours you've pretty much covered it. They've got one on approaching poetry in general, and another one here on approaching prose, which I shared with students last year, and they found quite useful, or at least they said they did. What can you expect from me in the tutorials? Looking at the list of students, some of you know me from other courses from last year. What you probably won't find is a tutorial experience where you come to the tutorial and I basically give you notes which you can go away and prepare for exams. I don't really feel that that's learning about literature. I don't think that that's really learning to appreciate literature. And I don't think it's going to really help you to continue your reading after the course. So I like the tutorials to be very interactive affairs. I like lots of discussion. I like lots of debate. And I like to hear your views about what this literature means to you, which at the end of the day is what literature is all about. Learning about literature is learning to talk about literature. It's learning to express yourselves. It's learning to grow through the experiences of others and their written record of this. Before the tutorials, what should you do? First, I really, really must insist that you read the literature. If we look through the book, each of the units, and we'll be covering one unit a week pretty much because we've got 12 tutorials before the first exam and 12 writers to cover, and so it does seem logical to divide them into weekly courses, weekly sections. Each chapter is divided into background information about the writer and the context, the historical context, which does help you to situate the narrative. And then we have excerpts from the literature itself. And this is what I must insist that you read, the actual literature, because I do want you to come to class to be able to talk about it, to be able to share your doubts, share your opinions, talk about your preferences, why you like something, why you don't like something. All of this is developing a deeper understanding of literature. For some of you, this may be a little bit new. Maybe you prefer the passive experience of coming to class and me just giving you everything I know about literature. But I don't think you're really going to get a deeper appreciation of the literature itself. So for John Smith, you've basically got 3 pages to read of the actual literature itself before the class. This is not too much to ask. And that's going to be the tonic for all of the writers. I really do want you to come to the tutorial having read the literature itself, the texts. Okay? In the course, we have the option of preparing PECs, your continual assessment, and the deadline there is the 10th of December. These are 2 fairly short articles, about 300, 400 words. I think the first one is related to, let's check it out. The first one is, look, here's the Open University mini MOOC, which you can visit. Strongly recommend this. The 2 activities. The first one is comparing and contrasting the use of citations and quotations in John Smith, in Mary Rowlandson, in Jonathan Edwards. Pretty straightforward. And the second one is another compare and contrast of the identities projected by Olaudah Equiano and Phyllis Wheatley. So they're pretty straightforward. We'll be talking about them more as we get closer to the deadlines of the PECs. Probably in the beginning of November, we'll start preparing those, and I'll start giving you some pointers for that. Another thing I will be insisting on is, and this is a problem I had with lots of students last year, not so much in American literature, definitely in the Mundos Anglófonos course, was what we consider good academic writing and what we consider as plagiarism. And I will be posting another video for you with some very clear deadlines as to what is plagiarism and what is not plagiarism. Some of you seem to have some confusion as to that. We have to break free from this concept of cutting and pasting and copying and pasting, and become creators of, or co-creators of, knowledge. These are the kinds of competencies we're going to need after we finish our studies. You have access to me through my email, through the foro, which I would like to see a little bit more active this year. I will be updating the Prezi as we go through the course and adding much more background information and videos and all kinds of materials related to the literature that we come across. Again, you can contact me through email, you can contact me through the foro, foro sounds very English, foro, and the forum in English, or come along to the tutorials, which I hope will become interesting debates and discussions about the literature that we are dealing with. Debate and discussion is definitely the way I learnt literature at university. There we would have formal lectures, but the real interesting stuff took place in these much more informal tutorials with a reduced number of students, where basically we discussed, we debated, we argued, and we talked about what we liked and didn't like in the literature that we came across. that's pretty much it for next week. What I really want you to do is read the literature, read John Smith, flick through the book first as well. Have a look through the book at the other chapters, see what you're going to expect from this course. You'll recognize some of the writers. We're going to deal with some of the giants of world literature. More after Christmas, where we come across Edgar Allan Poe, Walt Whitman, Herman Melville, Emily Dickinson, Mark Twain, Henry James. These are colossal figures in world literature, and they set the basis really for another explosion in the 20th century of American literature. The first term we'll be looking at the seeds of that. What were the early values of the settlers, the early settlers? How did they forge this American identity through literature? This constant expansion of frontiers on every level. Okay, I'm going to go and feed the cat, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Hopefully now I'm going to remember how we disconnect this video. See you next week.